Leave sin so that sin can leave you. Leave unrighteousness so that unrighteousness can leave you. Leave pornography videos so that pornography videos can leave you. Leave masturbation so that masturbation can leave you. These things will not lead you to God. These things will lead you to destruction. Don't think that sin is so difficult to stay away from. It's hard because you're not ready to stay away from it yet. And when you're there, God cannot walk with you. When you're there, you cannot see the blessing of God in your life. So leave sin if you want sin to leave you. Many people think it's so difficult for sin to leave them. That's because you still love the sin. That's because you still want to hug the sin. That's because you still want to romance the sin. That's because you still want to feel the sin. If you don't want to feel this sin, if you don't want to have anything to do with this unrighteousness, you can stay away from it. You can quit away from it. You can keep away from this unrighteous thing that you do oftentimes. And when you look at the Bible, you see that those who succeed are those who walk in the way of God. And the Bible says that you shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that produces its fruit in every season. And it says that if you abide in Him and His word abide in you, you can bear much more fruit. So how can someone who is living in sin understand this word? The Bible says that all things work together to them that believe in God, to them who walk according to His will and His purposes. So how will you be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that produces fruit in every season when sin is what you do, when unrighteousness is the part of your lifestyle, when pornography videos is what you do all the time, when masturbation is what is eating you up? How can God have a moment with you when fornication, lust is what is driving you crazy? So how do you expect God to do something for you? Many people think that it's so difficult for them to become millionaires. It's so hard for God to make them great, rich. Many people believe that I don't know what, but God would make me rich. God wants to make you rich. But you see, God cannot make a sinner rich. God cannot make a disobedient person rich. God cannot make a rebellious person rich. God cannot make somebody who loves sin rich. There's not. If God does that, that means everybody has to become rich, because God has broken His law and His word if He does that. But God cannot break any of His laws. God cannot change any of His rules and regulations, because you cannot stop living in sin. God cannot change His pattern because you cannot stop living in sin. God cannot change His word because you cannot stop living in sin.